That's an
I
idea.
I
Just
don't
throwing
know.
that out there.
I mean, this is a completely theoretical interview now. I mean, are we really here at this point? I mean,
Hey everybody, Jason here from Ghostbusters News, and today I am joined by Chief Creative Officer Jared Garrettson and Designer Director Jordan Mathewson of Illfonic.
hey man, it's great
Hello.
to get on a call with you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Totally. I mean, I think the last time we kind of all connected together was obviously the launch party back in October in New York City. An amazing time. Uh, but this month, I think this has probably been the biggest month of the game since obviously launch. You guys just released the big free quarter 1 DLC update, kind of the first, I guess, of hopefully, throughout the year here. How's the response been like for that?
It's been awesome. It's been really awesome. I mean, it's like, this is all of these have been planned for honestly years. And so
Mhm.
like me sitting on the RGB stuff for as long as we've been announced, because like that was the whole thing is like, we got the RGB stuff approved. And, for me growing up with, Ghostbusters and real Ghostbusters, it was one of those things where it's like, I want to talk about it. And like, it's just we couldn't. It was supposed to be our big, DLC one push. And, I'm just beyond excited to get it out and get to kind of show people that the game is nowhere close to being done. And we have so many other rad ghosts and maps and surprises and just the game's going to keep on evolving and it's just really fun for us to be able to do. And so yeah, the hype has been very cool.
Yeah, it's especially unique in this game's case just because like, being able to add stuff that calls back like that, like the RGB stuff is just so cool to see the different types of reactions across the fan base for like, oh, there's new gameplay things. Ooh, these new, cosmetic things came out, but to see all that kind of come together and people enjoying it in different ways, but then also discovering all the other things that we added is really awesome. I've really enjoyed seeing the reactions.
And I mean, you guys, you have a pretty tremendous resume when it comes to taking a movie IP, turning it into a video game. I mean, Friday the 13th, you had Predator, two franchises very much like Ghostbusters with rather dedicated fan bases. I'd imagine there is some bleed over when it comes to, a Friday the 13th fan playing Ghostbusters. I am one of those people, but I'm kind of curious here when it comes to, taking on a new franchise, taking in all that fan base, embracing the fandom head on, is it hard to kind of keep expectations in check when it comes to the fan base there?
No.
Because I mean, a lot of, well, I'm just thinking because a lot of people, they may be brand new to asymmetrical games,
Yeah.
right? Like you could have people coming into this game expecting almost like a Ghostbusters 2009 situation where it's a full on story mode and maybe the multiplayer is the afterthought. But with this, it's definitely the reverse.
I mean, it's that double-edged sword where it's like you're a fan of something and then something gets announced and you just see a quick trailer with very little information and then you like your brain just naturally starts to like spark and you get all these crazy ideas of what it could be and how great it could be and all of that and then you learn more and more and you could either get more excited or just like get turned off by it or whatever because I mean I've been I feel like I've been a lifelong Ghostbusters fan when the
Mhm.
OG, Ghostbusters game got announced and um I would meet devs. I was a developer. I was working at the time in games and so I knew the limitations of everything and when I started to see, so I was like, man, this looks really cool. And then I met some of the guys at an industry event, and I was like, oh my God, Ghostbusters! And I nerded out on them for a while. And they were, it was all the guys were still around and still, actively heavily working, and they were able to get the entire cast. And it was like, oh my God, it must be so amazing to be able to talk to them and do this stuff. And I remember just nerding out on it. And then, it came out as like it was a fun experience, but when I joined Elphonic shortly after the launch of F-13 and got to work on F-13 and got in deep with that the multiplayer crowd and started to see what F-13 was evolving into and then we did what we did with Predator. Um, it was one of those things where when we announced Predator, I've always been a Schwarzenegger fan. That's I feel like any kid that grew up in the 80s inherently loves any Schwarzenegger movie, but like Predator was one of those games or one of those movies that when after it was done, I went out and played in the cul-de-sac and I pretended I was playing Predator. And I remember doing that. And so working on Predator, I was so excited for it to get announced. And I remember big Predator fans online that I would follow and watch their Predator lore videos. I was watching their reactions, and half of them were like, "Oh, single player or multiplayer only, that I don't care." And it was just like, "Oh man, that
Mhm.
sucks." Like you and I could have aligned so well. We could have been such, it could have been so cool. And so with Ghostbusters, we made sure that we took all of the learnings from F-13 and Predator, but it's still a small game. It's still an independent publisher and developer. It's still not going to be, I feel like, what people want, which is all four OG guys and all of this great stuff and a GTA and this 60-hour game. It still needs to be done and be able to be sold and be able to be made in a cost uh aware budget and everything like that. And I think that for what we had, what we're able to do, what we felt the game could sell, and for what the game could be, I think that we put so much into it. I personally put so much into it. I know Jordan did as well. But it's one of those things where when I sit back in my easy chair in the retirement home, like Ghostbusters is definitely one of those games that I'm always going to remember so fondly because I saw the film when I was in in the theater 8 or 9 years old, and I knew nothing about Ghostbusters, so I was coming in blind, and I came out of it just so excited about the idea of Ghostbusters. And I remember making the cardboard box, and I remember just all of this like thing, but also I remember all of a sudden being really afraid of ghosts. And so it's just one of those things that as a little kid, I just always loved this franchise. And so this is definitely one of those things where when we were able to go into Ghost Core and we pitched it, and I was in, you know, uh, the firehouse replica on the Sony lot, and I'm like looking around and seeing all the patches and getting to be there and hearing like, oh, Ivan might be walking by or Dan might be in town. It was just like, oh my God, I was just so excited. Of course, no one came by. We met them all in Zoom, months later, but it's just one of those things as a Ghostbusters fan for me, it is super amazing to be a part of it, but it's also super hard to, please everyone because it is just one of those things where your brain goes into this really wild trajectory of like, I'm a mega fan, it should be this and it should be that. So, long story to your answer.
Yeah, I think it's all just a matter of, handling perception. It's, we always want to make the coolest thing possible, and making those tough decisions is the hardest part of our job, really, because we are fans as well, and we want to make the coolest possible thing. And, we are only the studio we are is small, and we have to make the decisions that are going to make the best overall experience that we can deliver people, so they recognize, yes, this is a Ghostbusters game, and I feel like I'm taking part in what's happening in this world.
Well, as I said, like I was a Friday the 13th player, totally loved the game, spent way too many hours into it. And I gotta say, I never really got into Predator. I watched the film. Sadly, I didn't really get into the game at all. I never actually even gave it a shot. I'm
Thanks,
sorry.
dude. Awesome.
I'm sorry. Hopefully, I'm
I'll
making
send
up
you
for
a
it with this
code. I'll send you a
Ghostbusters.
code. I'll send
Okay,
you a code. How's that
I'll give it. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a
I'll
shot.
even hook you up with an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, thanks. But no, actually, what I was going to say there is jumping from Friday the 13th right into Ghostbusters. There was such a change, and I don't want to say the quality of Friday the 13th was bad, but the overall presentation value of Ghostbusters, it was such a massive leap. And I love the fact that you mentioned earlier, you talked about, Schwarzenegger and everything with Predator. You guys did go above and beyond when it came to the story mode, I feel, because an asymmetrical game, you don't need a story mode. And the fact that not only do you have one, but you've got Ernie Hudson, you've got Dan Aykroyd reprising their roles. I mean, how important was that to get that, feature into the game, that mode into the game?
Jordan, you mind if I talk for 15 minutes
Yeah,
again?
go for it.
Okay, sorry. I mean, so when F-13 did the Pamela tapes, right? And I always thought that was really cool. And so with Predator, it's like how we got Arnold Schwarzenegger was the guys at Fox said there's no way you could get Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so us being us were like, oh yeah? And so we did it, and then we're like, we got them. We can't just have this Dutch. We can't just do that. We like, me as a Predator fan, I want more. And so we wrote the backstory of Dutch from the film to the current day, and even added in the Shane Black stuff, and even added in Predator 2. And then they even took that high level and they turned it into a book, and it was just like, holy, we wrote this backstory of Dutch, and this is amazing. So when we were pitching Predator, it was around the same time that we were pitching Ghostbusters. And so, you talk about like the quality differences. F-13 was like 20 people. Ghostbusters is, 3-4x that, with the also the amount of time, and also, it just being us, and no other distractions of publishers or other people like that. So the quality bar, of course, raised with just numbers and budgets. But when we started working on Ghostbusters, and I was like, we've done all these cool tapes and stories. Why don't we do cinematics? Why don't we tell a story? Why don't we do something greater than what other asymmetrical games have done, including ourselves? And if we're gonna do this right, and that's the thing. It was always, if we're gonna do this right, we have to do X. And so if we're gonna do this right, we got to get as many of the cast as we can afford, and can bring in. And so, Dan and Ernie were, of course, the first ones to it, because they're the most active with the Ghostbusters franchise. And then when we got them, it's like, okay, well, we got them, we have to do a story. And it has to be something that's tangible and fun and different. And it can't just be like you're just going and talking to them and there's these flappy jaws. And so we worked really heavily with Ghost Corps to build this little chunk of a story of you being a Ghostbuster, and them starting it up. And then we added Kat and Eddie just to kind of fill up the cast. And then, of course, Nameless, just to add a little crap bag into it. And so we tried to do the right thing the entire time. And, we continue to try to do the right thing for this entire game, because it is so important to us, and it is so important as like fans to do more and more and more and evolve the studio. Because our next game after this will, of course, be better, but there isn't anything that really tops Ghostbusters in my like, oh my God, I love this so much. And I watch the OG film all the time on the airplane. And, it's just one of those things where the story was important for not only us as developers to evolve the studio, but I feel for the fans, and to get people to go, oh, I don't really normally play multiplayer games. And I was told that, like, I don't really play multiplayer games by an actual Ghostbuster at the Paris Game Show. And he's like, but I gave it a chance, and I played it by myself for a while, and now I play it all the time. And, so thank you for getting me into multiplayer. So it's a really cool thing. It's just a really cool element.
I think it's just an entirety of the project, trying to make sure that when we were bringing it to people, like, that was a crucial part of the puzzle, along with all these other elements that we have to heavily focus on when we're looking at the IP of something, going into like the music, going into building out a lot of the game mechanics to really support and kind of fuel a good single player experience as well, so that people are able to jump in and experience this story that folds in and really brings you into the group of Ghostbusters. Instead of you stepping into someone's shoes, you are the one that's in there, and you're the one experiencing this onboarding and being kind of welcome to the family. I mean, that was something that stood out so memorably when we were with Dan recording his lines. He was really impressed and so happy with what we'd put together in a way that it really welcomed people into the family of ghostbusting, and that just made it all worth it. And I think that was just a great decision for us to focus in on that and make sure that it's like, this is the firehouse. We've gone out of our way to make sure this place feels like home as you're experiencing these things, and really adds to the overall experience, just across the board, not just one section that we're kind of working in here. It's something we put a lot of time and effort into making a part of something that people usually don't do with asymmetrical or multiplayer games, for that matter.
And going back to Dan Aykroyd, of course, Ray Stantz, I think it was you, Jared, that was actually talking to me about some of his recordings, I guess, going over his lines at one point. And I think there was like an Easter egg you were talking about that you kind of wanted to include about Crystal Head, or like just vodka in general. And he was like, no,
Yeah, yeah. It was honestly pretty shocking because we gave a little nod to vodka, and he's like, no, raise a whiskey drinker. And we're like, all of us were like, holy wow, okay, whatever you say, boss. And like Dan was, I mean, it's we have different levels of VO for sure, just in the industry. And like the the technical jargon and the cadence of Ray stands that Dan has done. He was doing all of his lines in two takes. He gave us one and then he gave us another one with like a different kind of cadence. But he was banging those out just just like, and it was so rad. And I remember James and Elise Williams who co-wrote it with us. We're slacking back and forth like, oh my God, he did it. Oh my God, he did it. And it was just so cool. I mean, even going back to Ernie, where it's like recording with Ernie, we didn't know if Ernie was gonna be able it was had the dark, ominous voice. And so we're doing all of his normal Ernie VO, and then we have him do the nameless possessed VO. And he just turned on this like, James Earl Jones like doom voice, and like we're just like, oh my God, it's working. And it was just so freaking rad. And then bringing in like Greg Miller and having him doing his swarmy nameless on top of that, it was just like all of the voice acting that we've done has been like a real big luck out. Like we knew Raul was going to be able to do Tobin, like he's just a great guy. But like all of these guys came in with these such crazy new elements to it. But like going back to Dan, it's like I didn't expect him to just go, be able to do these almost tongue twister lines. And then in some cases he would add more layers to it in his weird kind of fluctuate, like super fast speaking cadence. Is just like, this is amazing. It was just like working on this game has just been so freaking rad. Just getting all of these like, living legends to be a part of it. It's been amazing.
So one of the biggest new additions to the game as part of this new update is the new Glutton Ghost type, headlined by Muncher. There's also two new ghosts, Spew and Heap, with Heap honestly being an instant favorite of mine. Just from the appearance alone. I mean, I don't know if those are like chopsticks coming out of his head or what's going on, but I love the look of that character. And I gotta ask, what's kind of the creative process when it comes to some of these unique ghosts? Because like outside of, I guess, Slimer and Muncher, every ghost so far, they're unique to this game. I mean, they've been made in-house by Illfonic. And honestly, like they fit in really well with the Ghostbusters universe, regardless if you want to talk about the film, the animated series, whatever. I mean, these guys, they look like they could fit into almost anything. What is that creative process?
Honestly, so when we started, you know, my job is to kind of balance design, creative story, all of the creative side of the company. So it's my awesome job to go like, okay, Jordan, let's get together. These are the archetypes that we're gonna do. These are kind of the future archetypes. And then, let's figure out what they're gonna do and all of that. And then I go and work with the concept team and the art team and go, here's kind of like a high level two sentences of kind of the what it's going to be. And then we all just kind of work together on like, kind of fleshing it up a little bit more. But then I've got this truly amazing concept artist that he's worked with us. Man, he's worked with us forever. It seems like he did all of our Predators. He's done he did all of the humans, and then he's able to just bang out these really awesome ghosts. And I'm super excited to be able to talk about the other ghosts and the other variants that are coming in the next year. um it's just so rad because he's just super talented, and he just takes a couple paragraphs and he comes back with exactly what's in my head. And it's just so crazy because like you know the the ghost variants. But like at the beginning it was just go crazy, and he drew, I want to say like 30, 40 different ghosts, and we kind of chose what would work. And there's a couple that got pretty far and was like, this just isn't working out, so we threw away one ghost, a full ghost archetype away. But then we took all of its mechanics and gave it to the other ghosts. But like it has been a lot of just kind of mandates of like, the inspiration of real Ghostbusters has truthfully been like a major part. More so than the Ghostbusters stuff. Montage ghosts definitely influenced a lot of the stuff, but I didn't want to have like your dead aunt, Martha floating around and doing that. So we always had them being non-human forms, and just kind of going out and crazy, like almost like I think a lot of times I'm like, I want this to be more of an action figure than just a statue or something like that. And so it's been really fun with that. And then Jordan and the design team then, kind of figure out what those mechanics can be in those initiatives. And actually, Jordan, I can let you talk on that, on the design
Yeah,
side of that stuff.
because yeah, once we get the visuals kind of locked down around a ghost, like we have the idea of what it is, kind of generally what it's going to be named. It gives you a general sense of kind of what the ghost is efficient in, and then we begin to build out the different ability sets that kind of encapsulate the ghosts and kind of define how we want it to operate. Most of the ghosts kind of exist on a very similar platform, obviously, but Muncher specifically, since that was kind of the big one for this update, we went a little bit different as far as like how the gameplay was going to work, because obviously he is a unique ghost in what we've seen up until this point, and the fact that he was very attuned to munching metal and eating, and there's a lot of that in the film. So it looking at him as a ghost, it was just like these are the things that he needs to do. Like we need to make sure that it fits into our current gameplay setup and kind of balances out with the other ghosts, so that as we're creating the initial ghosts and kind of focusing in on like this is going to be possessing, this is really going to be focusing on doing a lot of damage to the environment, for like Basher, and then looking forward into like, oh, even like Slimer, like how would we best fit him into the ectoplast ghost type, and make sure that he exists kind of along with Winky and Pokey and Brainy, but also brings his own little unique thing to the battlefield, because everyone's going to want to play as Slimer at some point, with him being so tied to the IP. And then of course, once we get the abilities kind of work together with the engineering team and get the VFX and feedback in, we play them and figure out different ways to tune and tighten them up so that they exist in a nice harmonious environment with all the other gameplay mechanics.
Now, earlier today, I reached out to the Ghostbusters news followers. Got a lot of questions when they knew I was interviewing you guys, and I don't want to ask any specifics because I know there's going to be no for sure answer. A lot of people, they want to know, hey, are we getting Scolari brothers? Are we getting, a spectral terror dog? What's coming up when it comes to the ghosts? What
All the
I'm
stuff we can't talk about.
exactly. What I'm more curious about is when it comes to over the years, there's been toy companies, Diamond Select Toys, Mattel, Hasbro. Some of their guys, they've talked about issues acquiring a certain appearance of a character or a particular ghost. Have you guys faced any hurdles thus far when it comes to bringing a certain ghost from the cartoon series, film series, toy line, or even another Ghostbusters game into Spirits Unleashed? Or is there maybe hurdles that fans just aren't aware of?
I mean, it's an active IP. It's not like Predator where it's like pirate Predator. It's just like we like with Predator, it's just like throwing out ideas and does it look cool? Does it sound cool? With this, it's like all of the ghosts need to go into the ghost core, essential like Tobin spirit guide of their kind of structure. And so there's a lot of things that we have to bring through approvals, all like for example, like when we first started working on the game, we went through a lot of just straight up phone calls with Ivan of like what we can and can't do, where we can touch, where we can't touch. Our story changed when it became like we were doing something different in the timeline and the universe of it. And then they had a big meeting, and Jason and Gil are like, game should be attached to our cinematic universe. And so there's a lot of those elements. And luckily enough, it was very much like, okay, these things are no-goes, these things are no-goes. We of course, got into like, oh, we really need X, Y, and Z, and then we just had to explain why. It's like I said, it's not ours. Like it's kind of like anything that's someone else's. Like we're lucky to be able to do it. Two, we need to approve it. And if it just doesn't fit the ghost core, vision of everything, it's kind of, luckily enough, we have a lot of ideas. It's just one of those elements where um, we work really well with Ghost Core. Like Eric has become a really good advocate. The Sony Pictures guys are really great too. So it really hasn't gotten to the point where it's like game's not good now because of X, but there has been times where we're like, for example, like the VAD. We didn't want to have ramps of crap, and we didn't want to have ladders and stairs all over the place, but we wanted the character to be able to run around. So when we said, "Hey, we want to have a grappling hook," they were like, "Whoa, what are you trying to do? Make Bionic Commando here?" And we're like, "No, no, no! Like, this is how it's going to work." And we did concepts, and we went through multiple iterations to make it as Ghostbusters-esque as it could be. But it had to go through like quite a bit of a process just to make sure that Ghost Core and everyone was good with it. And that happens with Ghosts, that happens with technology. Um, a lot of things that we're building off of gameplay we built off of like scenes in a movie. The anti-possession device is actually based off of Ghostbusters 2 when they're in the China shop or the crystal shop and they're using those like laser deals, and so we kind of said like, hey, in this scene there's this thing, we want to use that, or in this, you have the gizmo, this is what we're thinking that we want to do with it. And so there's been a lot of those elements in this great give and take, but um you know it all takes like multiple parties that are in different states of the world and different states of like busyness to kind of get these different elements in. I mean, it's the same with the story. Like we had a pretty different story at the beginning that then became the story that we have. But I'm actually really excited because not only did we get like the story to become, I feel, better, but we also got it to be kind of touched by Jason and Gil. And so, there's a lot more of awareness of what happened with that. So there's been a lot of great give and take, I would say is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, anytime something touches closer to the heart of the IP or is actually on screen at any point, just it's more complex to work with just inherently, and it takes a lot more time to do so. So that's just it. And the variables are never predictable either. So it's just always a toss up.
So a bit earlier, you kind of mentioned how from the get-go, Real Ghostbusters was kind of a priority for this game to kind of have a bit of a footprint in Spirits Unleashed. And with the recent update, I mean, we got the equipment shells, and I mean, the online matchmaking now is just filled with people rocking those things. I'm kind of curious the fact that with this update, you guys kind of went all in on RGB with the shells. We got the new hair, new glasses, very fan demanded. Can we expect possibly anything else in the future when it comes to Real Ghostbusters?
I have no idea. I I have no idea, Jason. I mean,
No idea. Okay, all right.
that's what you get. That's what you get. Uh yeah, it's just yeah, let's get to another question, I think.
All right, all right. So I guess I need to ask here the fact that if we're talking Real Ghostbusters, since that update rolled through, me personally, I've been loving the fact that not only can I, rock a Real Ghostbusters Proton Pack, but the changes made to the customization options in the actual face, the fact that you can actually tweak the facial details so much more now means that me and other fans, we can remake Ray and Peter, Egon, Winston, Janine, Louis Tully, like all the characters from the Real Ghostbusters. And now they actually look good. Like, I mean, not that they didn't really look good before, but you can really match what you see in the animated series now, and it really makes a world of difference. So what I'm kind of curious about, the fact that there is definitely more of an aspect now when it comes to customization. This has been something a lot of people they're asking for. Is there going to be possibly an option to actually save presets? So like if I want to be Ray in one game and then maybe be Egon in the next game, I'm not going to have to go in and change, my character all around. I can just select it right from a menu.
So there are plans for presets. That is absolutely the plan. This game is not stopped by any means. We are, as you can see, and first off, dude, I get so excited when I see you posting those, like and the how-tos. That is so rad. I absolutely love how much time you've put into that and making those, and they look so awesome. It just gets me. It's one of those things where, yeah, this is my job, but there's that perk of going and getting into a battle with people and saying we need to do X, Y, and Z so this can happen, and then being able to cut and paste a link and go, it happened. See, I told you so. And so, the game is not done by any means. We are going to continue to evolve it. Presets are definitely one of those things that we're planning on doing. And that will of course evolve. But the customization when we shipped was, I feel like it was good, but
Mhm.
as we got ready for this, like, hey, I personally can't make this look right. I need more sliders, and that was a big push for that. And so that's just kind of like a little bit of a taste of just what we're doing more with the game to allow it. But honestly, man, like seeing you guys doing that and seeing people posting it, like your most recent Egon that you posted, I think yesterday or something. I was like, yes, this is so awesome. And, we're going to keep on adding more customization. Like that's a big thing. That's going to be a big element of the Ghostbusters of, getting more glasses and hairs and dialing in some more sliders and getting more of that because, really we want, this game to be, to that point where if someone becomes a Ghostbusters fan, we'll say after this next movie, they can come and get, an even bigger, greater game and, just keep on driving this. Cause I do feel like each year there's more Ghostbusters fans, more kids discover it, more parents have their kids see Ghostbusters and so, I just, want to make sure that this game can be found years later. Cause like, a lot of people found the terminal reality game and we're like, oh my God, I never even knew this was out. And so, that's why we did the stylization with this game is because I feel stylization will allow the game to look really good in 3 or 4 years when someone discovers it for the first time.
Now, if we're talking customization, I want to go back to the shells right quick because a lot of people they were asking for all those upgrades, all those customization options, but keeping it in that 84 style, that original OG style. Of course, you guys also added Real Ghostbusters as we've already talked about. I know once again you guys can't say anything specifically as to what could be coming, but I do just want to say that the overarching community out there, they're talking Extreme Ghostbusters. They're talking about
what?
Yeah, I mean, you may have
Really?
not heard about it.
It's super weird.
I know. Extreme Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and 2016 Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
That's super weird. That's crazy. That's
I'm
so
just,
weird. Why would they? That's. I mean, isn't Real Ghostbusters enough? I mean,
I mean,
no, of course people are asking for that. Of course people are asking about that, and we're not going to talk about that at all. But I mean, it's just one of those things where, yeah, I get it. I'm a Ghostbusters fan. I want more. But really, the thing that the genesis of the shells was, as cool as our packs can be. I know that there's a lot of purists out there that wanted to have the min max of their best sets and packs, and then have the old school 80s stuff. And that's been the big genesis of that. And of course, as soon as we got that working, it's like I want RGB stuff, and then I want other things that we're not going to talk about. But yeah, it's allowed us to really open the customization of the game quite a bit. Quite a bit. But
so
I'm not
just saying,
shocked that people want those other things at all.
hypothetically saying, if more
Yeah.
shells came, do you think that maybe new uniforms would follow in the customization options? I don't know.
Man,
I'm just
man.
that's an idea.
I
Just
don't
throwing
know.
that out there.
I mean, this is a completely theoretical interview now. I mean, are we really here at this point? I mean, as I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's I mean, I understand where people are all coming from on that for sure.
All right, so let's talk about something probably that you still can't talk about, but let's talk about something that exists. The brand new multi-layered, tiered, whatever you want to call it, map, the facility. But it's already a fan favorite. People are loving it. I've been
Awesome.
seeing like some of the online leagues talking really high things about it. Me personally, it's one that I never miss. I never, if it's coming up next, I don't leave the game. But
That's
such a great
rad.
map. Yeah. But I gotta say, given the location seen in the first film, like the Sedgwick, Dana's apartment, Ghostbusters 2's, museum, courthouse, sewer system. I was a bit surprised to see some of those, I guess more of those iconic locations not really used right out of the gate, like in terms of DLC. Looking at future DLC, is it likely that we're going to see more new locations, like created in-house by you guys that are unique? Or could fans maybe be treated to maybe a familiar location or two down the road?
Well, let me just explain one terrible thing that we found out. New York, Manhattan as a whole, every single building has an agent. The structures have agents, and they have lawyers, and they have infringement people and all of that other stuff. So it's very difficult to go like this hotel, which is actually in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and do this. Like we are inspired by a lot of the stuff. Um, and of course all of those maps were brought up, and then we started to go like, well, how do you do that without, getting sued? But also, really how we define the game and the maps, it's a tough balance, truthfully, because Hunter, our lead designer, who's like the backbone of all of these maps, um, he white boxes it. He builds a good play space. He puts, blocks that are supposed to be line of sight breakers and squares. So it's all gray boxed, and it's nothing. It's just a series of gray rooms with hallways. And then he play tests it, and then he grows it. He grows it. Then we give it to the art team. The art team go like, what are we thinking with this? And then they concept it out, and they do all the things that they do. Pretty much all the maps are very inspired by a lot of the film stuff. There is still things that are coming out that are very inspired by the film. But as far as like, oh, let's make the Sedgwick, like, you've seen the film, right? Like, it's not the ballroom is not on the same floor as the hotel lobby areas. And to get it to feel like the Sedgwick, I don't think it would be an amazing map. And if we're talking about like league play, and we're talking about hardcore, gameplay and all of that, I'd much rather make maps that play really well than go for that, oh, this is a Sedgwick, or oh, this is a slime-filled tunnel. That's kind of the balance that we have to do. But pretty much everything that we're doing is very heavily inspired by, haunted buildings and haunted places. We've got a lot of just inspiration off of that. Like, our ship definitely inspired by another haunted ship. Our prison definitely inspired by a very spooky prison on an island. So all of those things are very inspired by it. But when it comes to like, oh, Dana's apartment, like, is that going to be fun? It's kind of one of those things where it's like I get the want for something that is a pretty cool member berry, but gameplay comes first in a lot of my theories with this. And so, that's kind of, a weird way to walk around what the future DLC is. But I'll tell you this, the next few DLCs I'm beyond excited about. I'm beyond excited, and they are very, very cool. And it is very original creative visions from the team that I think are really neat. And then even more maps that are in the works are even better. And a few of them definitely do tip the hat quite a bit. But making a licensed building facade is very tough.
Regarding upcoming DLC, should fans expect similar to what we've kind of seen with this first pack in terms of like you get a new map, you get a new ghost, maybe some new equipment, cosmetics? Is it going to kind of follow that similar formula?
Sure.
Yeah.
Maps and ghosts.
Maps and ghosts. That's the real
maps,
question. Like,
maps, ghosts, and Ghostbusters content for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have a very huge we have multiple huge elements that I'm really excited to talk about. That uh yeah. Yeah. It's not done. It's very exciting.
For the more dedicated ghost player, is there been any word possibly about tenure rewards for them?
I feel I mean Huh.
Like maybe like like a new skin or just something?
Well, I mean, we did the Twitch drops for the Ectoplas, and I guess that that was kind of what what we were pushing for is like, hey, let's try to support the streamers, let's try to support the league, let's throw the Ectoplas in there. Like those are definitely some of the you know ideas that we did, but I've never really thought of a because I feel like when I'm playing the game if I'm a ghost, it still trickles over to the Ghostbuster tenure thing. So I don't know. That's actually a pretty interesting idea. That's very interesting idea. I wouldn't say it's out of the it's definitely not out of the realm of things. I mean, there's massive documents of ideas, so I don't see why we don't throw that in there for sure.
Yep.
So going back to one of your previous games, Friday the 13th, and I know you guys did similar stuff when it came to Predator, and you have both of you've kind of hinted at it in terms of we're just at the beginning. There's still so much more left to come. But if I don't ask, I'm gonna get torn apart by the comments regarding the possibility of new modes. People have talked about survival, horde mode, maybe some type of raid-like boss battle. Are there any plans to add anything outside of the 4v1 that everyone's kind of currently enjoying?
So both Predator and F-13 were asked for new modes. F-13 never really got any, and it evolved, it got better. And
Mhm.
asymmetrical games like I'm positive the Dead by Daylight guys. I'm positive all the other asymmetrical games. Like, I know that some are actually putting out new modes, but we put out a new mode in Predator, and numbers don't lie. The number of people that tried, that even clicked on the button, are such a huge fraction
Mhm.
that we literally threw money out the window because people were constantly asking for a new mode. And I feel like asymmetrical games are good at what they're built for. And we built this as a Ghostbusters game of this state of one, Ghost versus Ghostbusters. Now, I don't know if changing gameplay mechanics and adding new layers is what people consider new modes because we are doing a lot of new elements to the gameplay that is going to evolve the actual game itself. We are continuing with a lot of AI systems. We are continuing a lot of with the offline and co-op ideas. So that could be hypothetically, considered in a high level a new mode. But I feel like the ghosts are truly the new mode. I feel like by us adding new ghosts that we spend a lot of our energy and time and balance to make a new ghost that plays differently. That I feel like is really our new game mode versus oh, let's do a game mode and kind of smash all this stuff together and kind of do what we can that makes it Ghostbustersy. But the thing is like we're trying to be super true to Ghostbusters, um, and throwing in like something that is just a cool game mode. I just don't feel like it's really an element that the core Ghostbusters fan want. I feel like a lot of people inherently go more modes, more maps, more ghosts. We're gonna do more maps, more ghosts for sure. We're gonna evolve the game as a whole, which will make the game fresh. But you look at like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, two of the world's biggest games with one mode that you play over and over again and you get really good at. And that's really what we feel would be better for us to do is to polish the crap out of the core game versus throw these little edge cases for people that are kind of getting bored of it. Because,
Yeah.
Predator, we did that and
Yeah, I think it's important that we focus in and really bring what we've created into a place where you don't need to request and think of new modes. I think there's a lot more room for us to be able to continue to watch and make sure that as we're adding all these new elements in, regardless if it's just the ghosts, the maps that are coming into play, or anything else that we're adding, it's all coming together in a more interesting and more unique experience that I feel like if we were to pivot, we would lose a lot of that time and focus that's going to make this even better than it was when it started.
So definitely, you're talking more obviously quality over quantity when it comes to what we should be expecting.
absolutely,
Correct.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we'll be able to talk about more of the bigger systems and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're definitely used to people requesting new game modes from all the past games, and we do listen, we do see it, but it is one of those things where it's like you have X number of people and why hours in the day and doing a game mode is what we tried doing in Predator because we wanted to listen to that everyone, but the number of people that actually clicked on that button was so fractional compared to the people that actually play the main game. We could have polished the main game really, really well. So yeah.
So with the new films, obviously we got a live action animated. There's also a new Netflix series in the works, comic series, and of course Ghostbusters celebrating its 40th anniversary next year. Spirits Unleashed, it kind of seems like almost the kickoff to all that. I mean, you guys had the game last fall. You have continuous DLC riding through up until the release of, well, hopefully even after, who knows, of the next Ghostbusters film. Is there kind of a timeline in place or anything that maybe fans can expect made public regarding, just what's coming out, what's expected? Maybe like a roadmap or something along those lines.
Well, you're going to get something quarterly this year, and we could talk about that. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like we pitched this game in 2018, and that was like the first time that we went on the lot. And we didn't know about the film. We didn't see the script until, X years later. There was no like when we were pitching it, there was no Jason Gill machine that we were even aware of. It could have been talked about, but there's so many things that Ghost Core and Sony Pictures are doing that we're kind of like we know about the film, we know about the 40th anniversary. We're trying to figure out things to do stuff with it. It's just it's a big machine that we're trying to honestly make sure that we're doing our part. And then if anything comes over that we're able to touch, we of course are going to try to do whatever we can.
Now, I know during this interview, you haven't been too tight-lipped. You've dropped so many reveals, so many bombs. It's, been pretty startling. But what I'm actually kind of curious about, I know you guys can't say anything again, but looking at the future of Spirits Unleashed, each one of you, if you can tell me what you're most excited for without obviously telling me what you're most excited for, because you can't.
Definitely this one thing we're doing.
That one thing.
Definitely this one thing we're doing.
Is everything a good answer for that? Because it's all really cool.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting. I mean, like being a Ghostbusters fan and doing the things that we're doing. I mean, oh man, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on for sure. And the game is going to evolve. It's going to yeah, I almost slipped and gave you a big hint, but I'm not going to even say that. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Before we wrap up here, one thing that I think caught some people by surprise was the fact that there is now a Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed League that just kind of like sprung up out of nowhere, right? Like it was just all fan based. You guys had nothing to do with it.
No. It was awesome. And yeah, I mean just the idea of this game being a competitive game is just so funny to me. But I worked at MLG back in the day. I've made multiple like very competitive first person shooters, and it was so funny when like this Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed League popped up, and it's all meme, logos, and it's got the pixelated glasses, and it's just got that kind of, Mountain Dew 420 style to it. And I was like, okay, that's a funny joke. Good for you guys. That's really good. And then people started doing it, and then the tournaments actually started happening, and then the league, the bracket started to get seen, and then just like the evolution of this league, it's so funny. It's just so funny, and I absolutely love it. And so, when this holiday, when I started, seeing it, and like all of the teams started to like really step up their play, but also just like their logos, and now these opening intros that they're doing, it's so rad. It's so rad. And so, us doing the jerseys was the bare minimum we could do, I feel. And, we're going to try to figure out what to do else with it and with them. But yeah, we had nothing to do with it. We had no expectations of true competitive Ghostbusters play. So it's just been a kick in the pants to see it happen for sure.
I know I'm excited to see how kind of like the league evolves, and obviously Spirits Unleashed. I'm pumped for the future. I mean, just from what you guys have been saying, or really not saying, I cannot wait till that DLC 2 update rolls out, 3, 4, however many more you guys may have, and obviously also your continued quality of life and just patch updates.
Yeah.
Thanks,
It's going to
man.
be, yeah, it's exciting because just in general, like we've been out for a few months now, and to be able to witness and just gather all the different things that have been happening since that, such a crazy time for developers to launch a game and then get it out there and see people playing it and absorbing it. It just creates so many different scenarios that sometimes you never even anticipated happening, like this league and other types of community content that comes through is just amazing to witness. And it's so great to hear all the feedback that people have been giving, and we want to continue to make this as best as it possibly can be as we continue to update it and add those new ghosts and maps and whatever else. These things are going to continually improve the game, and we really want to make sure that everyone's playing it and having the best experience possible, because we know that these are the types of scenarios and the interactions that really make video gaming extremely enjoyable, to get in those matches with friends and to just interact with other community members and have those moments that really kind of stick with you. So it's just been so exciting, and cannot wait for everyone to see what more we have in store.
Jared, Jordan, is there anything you guys would like to add before we wrap up today?
I feel like we've touched on everything that we could and couldn't touch on. Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know when this is going up, but those Twitch drops are the last chance to, well, not really the last chance to get the Necroplast, but easiest way to get the Necroplast. And we'll keep on figuring out other crazy things to do with that, with the Twitch drop system. That'll keep on evolving. And then, thank you to everyone. Thank you to you, definitely, for everything that you've been doing for the community and for the game, and just being that awesome guiding light. I feel, I hope that you'll be getting everything that you deserve with like the new film and everything, because I'm personally really excited for it. I think that that's going to be a really cool thing, and all of the other elements that the Ghost Core guys are doing. It's super exciting, and I feel like you covering all of that has been the easiest way for me to discover anything out of the franchise. So it's been awesome. So if you're somehow seeing this because of Illfonic, definitely follow Jason and Ghostbusters News, because like he's covering us as well as we're doing as much work as him, really.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to you, Jason, as well as the community. Just keep playing, enjoying it, and giving us the feedback that you feel is you're passionate about. Because anything, even if it's requests or thoughts about quality of life or anything that you feel particularly invested in, like give us that feedback, because we want to be able to listen to everyone that's a part of this and make it the best thing possible, not only as a Ghostbusters IP thing, but as a game we're making.